All right, well, good morning, Rotary District 7770, and welcome to Conversations with Rotary Action People for Monday, November 23rd. My name is Donald Hovis, your CWRAP host from the Chicora Rotary Club in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We're pleased to be joined this morning from the Carolina Forest Sunrise Rotary Club, Darla Domke-Demonta. Good morning, Darla. We're excited for your presentation. We will get to you in just a few minutes. I got a couple of announcements, and I have something new for CWRAP. I'm going to hopefully hope it works for you today. It's the first time I've done it. I think you guys will like it. But if you're on a mobile device, I don't know that you're going to get what I'm going to do in just a minute. So hopefully it works. But if you're on a mobile device and you're like, I don't see it, that could be the reason why. So, introducing our CWRAP team from the 5 Points Rotary Club in Columbia. She is our Public Image Chair for Rotary District 7770. It's the wonderful Mary Gask, still sporting her In Polio Now shirt and her purple pinky background. So thank you, Mary, for rocking that for almost 2 months now. I think maybe you got one more CWRAP to do that, and then maybe you can do something different, but maybe not. I think you've enjoyed it. So those of you here on the Zoom call, thank you for being with us this morning. We're excited for Darla's presentation, and we're excited to have, I see several members from Carolina Forest Sunrise Rotary. So way to get the word out about your fellow Rotarians speaking here on CWRAP. So it's good to see you guys. How about you go to the chat box and introduce yourself with your name, your Rotary Club, and today is National Espresso Day. Do you like espresso? Do you like coffee? Do you like cappuccino? Mocha latte, frappuccino? What's your go-to kind of morning Joe? How about that? While you're doing that, I'm going to launch something. Let's see if this works. You see something on your screen?
Yeah.
All right, there's a poll there, huh? Answer the poll, and we'll see what everybody's favorite Thanksgiving dish is. Once again, if you're on mobile, you may not see this. And as you're doing that throughout Darla's presentation this morning, if you do have a question for her, how about post that in the chat box as well, and I will ask those of her at the end. About 30 more seconds on the poll. All right, we need someone else to vote. We got to have one more vote to break a tie here. We got a tie right now. So maybe two people are on mobile and maybe they can't vote. All right, so we have a tie. There you share the results. There we go. So turkey, stuffing, and dressing is the favorites. All right. Well, I personally look forward to the sweet potato casserole myself. So, all right. So Darla, thank you for being here. How about first, for those that may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. First off, thank you so much for the opportunity to be together with fellow Rotarians today. I currently serve as the Associate Provost for Global Initiatives at Coastal Carolina University. I grew up in rural Minnesota on a dairy farm. My family moved into a town of 2,500 when I was 14. Was always very interested in what was happening around the world. Of course, access and awareness of those things at that time had some different ways to get to learn about them. And in that community, we had exchange students who came, and they were a very valued part of our community. So our family was always super excited to have them. I graduated and was an exchange student in Germany. And before that was selected as United Nations Youth Pilgrimage representative from Minnesota. So spent time at the UN in New York on that experience and with people from all over the US and Canada. As an exchange student, I was studying German and in Berlin itself when Berlin was still a divided city. and lived right near the wall. Over time, I went on to do my undergrad at American University in Washington, D.C., where I did a double major in Russian and USSR area studies and foreign language communication media and comm, which was a public relations in German, double majors. So I finished, and as I was finishing, well, I studied abroad in Poland during that time period. My family's background is from Poznań, the city there, and I was able to study in that city. And as I was concluding my studies, I was encouraged by a mentor to apply for a new Fulbright to Slovakia. And, you know, thought, wow, this has got a lot of stuff. Somebody far better qualified than I will certainly get this. But she was very insistent I apply. And I did. There was a lengthy time period for the processing. So I went on to take a job at the Center for Applied Linguistics as the one of 16 U.S. Department of Education clearinghouses, and I was the editor of RIEs, and anyway, editor there at the Center for Applied Linguistics, which allowed me to work with people from all over the world as well. And found out that I'd been selected for the Fulbright. I got to Slovakia 2 months before the Velvet Revolution in 1989. And you can imagine how that changed and affected that particular year. So at the end of the first year, it was asked to extend, and that was granted by the US government. So I spent 2 years in Slovakia helping to recraft some of the things that they were doing there, as well as conduct research with a variety of institutions and other things. Throughout all of this, I helped to negotiate partnerships between Western Europe, the US, and Slovak organizations, and to support youth exchange and volunteerism. Came back to the US and did my master's in international business at USC in Columbia. So I spent a lot of time up in the 5 Points area for all of you joining from that area. Yeah, and we wrote a couple of different federal grants to continue those exchange activities beyond that time. Went on and taught at USC for a few years, then did my PhD at Florida State in strategic management, and have been working in a variety of different areas to build international exchange, to support campus internationalization and community engagement ever since. So I guess that's kind of a lengthy way of saying a lot of different things in different spaces. But I just want to say that my passion for our ability as Rotarians to impact our communities through youth exchange is so important. And I just want to give a big shout out to Lou Mello for the work that he's done over the years, and particularly for his mentoring of our club as we began to get involved in these activities some years back.
Well, excellent. So there's two things I want to say. First, I'm sorry I didn't announce you as Dr. Darla. Sorry, my apologies for that. And then two, you started off your introduction with Coastal Carolina University. I think everybody on this call knows who Coastal Carolina University is now. Congratulations again to the Shants on beating Appalachian State over the weekend. 8-0, best Sun Belt record in history, folks. Right here, Conway, South Carolina is now on the map. Maybe College Game Day comes here in a couple weeks. That's my projection. We'll see. All right, so let's get started. Got some questions. You're going to be talking to us, about global citizenship, youth engagement, some other things. So how did you may have just said some of this in your introduction, but how did you get interested in youth engagement and global citizenship?
So I think there's a pivotal point in my self-growth when I heard Ronald Reagan in the mid 80s refer to, or actually the late 70s, I think I was 9 years old, so it would have been about 76, referred to the Soviet Union as the evil empire and evil there. And I thought, my family were Methodists, and the framework of, people are generally good. They can do some pretty awful stuff sometimes, but led me to be very curious about, well, what's going on? What are the issues and attributes and activities that speak to the way that people are interacting, and how does this change or make the world a safer or less safe place for us to be? And what can we do about it? How can we get engaged? And so we, as I mentioned earlier, had exchange students coming mainly through AFS to our community. and we would host them at our home. I think the first day of school, if I didn't already know them, I was talking to them and just asking questions. I collected maps as a kid. We didn't have a lot of money, so people who had National Geographic as a subscription at the doctor's office would save them, and they would give the magazines to our family. Those things were treasured possessions for years. So I think that part of it is this fascination that we live in a place that has people who are trying to live lives of love and community and family all over the world. And there are different ideas and thoughts and ways about doing that that can inform us. They don't always inform us to change, but they can inform us to better understand the ways that things have come about being. And I think there is great benefit in looking at the process of how to understand the way that we might move forward as well.
So what skills and perspectives does global citizenship include?
Yeah, so there are really, it's probably fair to say there are three basic theories that speak to global citizenship. One is a political theory of global citizenship, and that really states that citizenship is tied to a political relationship. So really the only way to speak about it is in the context of the places of which you are already a part, right? The educational theory of global citizenship speaks to how global citizens have to engage actively in a critically informed way with a set of these inherited historical issues that emerge out of our pasts and that affect and impact how we solve problems today and the kinds of solutions that we arrive at. And the social theory of global citizenship really frames in the picture of the nature of social membership in different types of groups. So when we look at global citizenship, Cosmos, for example, the Journal for Global Transformation, looks at it as someone who identifies with being part of an emerging world community and whose actions contribute to building this community's values and practices. Others suggest that the types of that global citizens tend to engage or identify with intergroup empathy, valuing diversity, intergroup helping, sustainability, and responsibility to act. And they also validate the important normative impact of friends, family, and the environment around us in crafting whatever our current frameworks are. And so that enhances the importance of this sharing and exchange that Rotary is involved in as one of its core premises, to be able to build those skill sets. It is interesting, though, too, that in the framework of global citizenship education, there's also sort of the soft CGE skills that is more about helping those over there. And the critical framework pieces are about how we're all part of similar systems. So it takes out there are attributes of this that are somewhat Western based, right? And so consequently, normatively, they come at it in a different framework. And that's not to say there aren't great benefits to looking at this in all of these different traditions. But one of the key pieces of this is how we're all discovering who we are, how we got to be how we are, and being open to understanding how it is that others got to be how they are, where they're at, and how we can engage importantly together as well, to get this sort of outrospection. I know we talk about introspection a lot and thinking about things, right? But there's also an opportunity to look at this from the perspective of outrospection, which is discovering who you are and how to live by stepping outside yourself and exploring the lives and perspectives of other people. And that's one of the sort of the core frameworks that, that global citizenship brings into play. And why this is so important for our youth today is because there is sort of a shifting role. We look at involvement, engagement. Surveys say that youth are around the world are not used to or are not finding the same ways that their parents and the next generation in front of them work to solve problems as necessarily one that's as workable for them. In some cases, they find themselves not invited to the narrative. And in surveys that were done of over 20,000 students by the Varkey Foundation a few years ago, of students from 15 to 21 years old from 20 countries, 60% only thought that their country was a good place to live. That was surprising to me. I'm very happy to be from here in the U.S. and but I thought, wow, that's interesting. That's bearing some thought. In 16 out of 20 of the countries, young people felt that the world was becoming a worse place to live than believed it was becoming better. 70%, though, felt that making a broader contribution to society beyond themselves and their family was really important, but over 74% felt that they lacked the skills and tools to know how to go about doing that. And so there's a place in here for the mobility, the exchange that we're involved with through Rotary and through other organizations to be able to help us to share and build on those skill sets, as well as the perspective raising. And again, I want to say that global citizenship is not about going someplace else and just throwing away everything that came from your own setting. That's really not the framework. It's really about helping you to see more dimensionality to all the parts that you're a part of. And I can say personally, to me, when I was an exchange student in Germany, I liken it to looking at yourself naked in a mirror. And while you may not want that image in your head, it's really this place where you're stripped outside of the normal things that are all around you. And when that's possible in an exchange scenario, you can see some things far clearer because they're able to come to you easier, because not everything else around you is supporting all the way that things always were. That probably was not very well said, but those are some of the skills I think that are really important. And I'll draw on Maria Tornquist, who was a Rotary Youth Exchange returnee out of Minnesota. She'd gone to China. One of the things she pointed out is she said, we tend to speak. And I think if you look at our language in our media, in our writing, we tend to speak about foreign. We talk about us versus them language a lot, not just with respect to international. And if we look at that framework, she said, going to China and being immersed in China, it really helped me to see that we're not all the us and thems. We're all, if I see myself as a part of the community I'm in broadly, then I can better see how I fit and how all the communities really are connected very, very inextricably to one another.
How can communities benefit from and partner in global citizenship and youth mobility initiatives?
Yeah, I think one of the important things is we have to look in our own communities, and we have to be welcoming and open to the individuals that we encounter in our own community. That I saw someone with a mask the other day that said, you have a lot of choices, but one choice you can make is to be kind, right? So being kind, being welcoming, being open, I think are things that we can do on a daily basis. We have community members all around the world, and Canada, for example, did a very interesting program a few years back where they brought together a youth forum, and they engaged people from youth all over Canada, not to make them make a space at the table, but to say, what's important to you? What are the ways that you think this can be solved? And committed to escalating the results of those activities to the national level, to policymakers and policy advocates and think tanks and so forth. And it really yielded from their own results and summaries, some ability to be able to look at things in new ways, right? Where I can see this in that my own children look at things in different ways than I do. So if that makes sense, and these are the inheritors of the world coming up, then first of all, engaging them and engaging broadly. And I think the framework of Rotary allows us this connection all over the world to be able to potentially do that. I think inviting individuals to be able to share is really important for helping to more fully embrace or help others see, well, what is somebody from Algeria like? We had a scholar visiting from Algeria. She wears hijab, and she taught Arabic at a local middle school here. She was open to all sorts of questions, and I heard those questions, and they were wide-ranging from kids. But I think one of the things that we've seen, and we've seen this even in the exchanges that happen when people have met during confrontations, wars, etc., is that once you meet someone, you have a better understanding, and you're less willing to take somebody else's language about how they describe an entire population or people than you are to seek that as, sort of maybe ask some questions if some of those things seem a little bit too sweeping as a generalization. I think that we need to bring speakers and into settings and conversations. So Sarah Nashod, who was from Pakistan, a UGrad participant, came to our Rotary Club last year and spoke to us. Now, Pakistan, I love the polio background that you've got there, because of course we as Rotarians have been talking about Pakistan for a long time, right? Well, it was really interesting to hear someone who was in the public health space in Pakistan talk about what that meant and what was happening there and what the systems and frameworks were. So it could help us to better understand, well, why isn't it done, right? And to recognize the layering and the effects and impacts. I think too, you know, we can call upon these exchange ideas to help better prepare our own youth for the world that they're going to live in and to partner. We have a young lady who's a soccer team here in the area in Myrtle Beach that's been accepted to play next year in the Gothia Cup, the world's largest youth soccer tournament in Sweden. Well, it just turns out that one of the new freshmen at Coastal Carolina happens to be not too far from Gothenburg in Sweden, and she's played in it for 4 times. So how wonderful when we start to explore where are the opportunities for engagement, where are the opportunities for learning and sharing. These things, I think, are super important. The mobility of our youth students to different people's homes, to the Rotary clubs that they're speaking in, on their own campuses for students to ask the question, are super critical. When I was in Slovakia, I founded a study program where it came because parents asked me to teach them English, their kids English. It started with 6 kids. It ended up 6 months later with a summer program camp for 100 kids up in the mountains in Slovakia. And the kids were asked to decorate a picture for their door that they were staying in. Some of them had, you know, palm trees in Sweden and different pictures of what you probably wouldn't necessarily see, but they were doing their best to express the place they were at. And I think we've got to be able to look at where are we at and be able to identify other ways for us to share with one another so that we can see, are there other ways for us to think and grow and be able to contribute both as Rotarians and as community members, family members, and citizens in our own more limited or narrow geographic spaces as well.
In light of the pandemic and other challenges, what will we need to focus on to be supportive of youth mobility internationally moving forward?
Yeah, I think, you know, in the conversation just before our session started today, and in some of what we're seeing in our presentations and discussions, I mean, we will inevitably see public health adjustments coming forward. We're already seeing them in terms of international mobility for a requirement to have tests. Now, I think many of you are aware that yellow fever immunizations are required, you know, for many years to go into certain parts of the world. It would not surprise me to see the same thing happen with respect to COVID. I think that we have to be ready to talk to our community members, and when mobility begins more in earnest, to make sure that we're not polarizing individuals based upon where it is, or stigmatizing them based upon where it is that they're coming from. And we're going to have to do some work on that in our communities. I think as we look at youth mobility, finding, you know, and continuing to focus on families who are willing and able to put that time in. And then I think celebrating, we've got to celebrate those stories of how that, having that student, we hosted exchange students in our family from Thailand, from Czech Republic, and from Ecuador years, right? And those changed our families' lives. They taught me how to cook Thai food. They taught us in different ways of thinking. And I think we need to celebrate those more publicly so that other families can be more aware of just how beneficial that is in their own family network as well. And I think we're going to have to be strong advocates in our communities for exchange as well. I know we were working in one place with a school, and they were very hesitant to accept additional exchange students. And part of the reason had to do with attendance requirements and regulations. And I respect that. I think we're just going to have to continue to engage to make sure that doorways are not closing to this extraordinarily valuable framework of sharing and learning and growth for our kids, for our communities, for our schools. And I think it's so important too. I mean, you know, my family had no money, and had community members not stepped up and put together a scholarship for $800 for me to be an exchange student, that wouldn't have happened. And that changed my whole life. So I just want to say too, that for every kid that is living in a rural community here, or even in our biggest urban and suburban areas, whose families are in a similar limited resource position, those kids that, you know, Lou, you're working with, that all of our Rotary groups are bringing into our communities, you change people's lives. You change the way they think. You change what they think they are capable of. You change the possibilities of how they believe they can be a part of the world. And that is so, so important. We are going to have to continue to share that growth, so it's clear it's not just for that exchange student, and it's not a burden on the family that is a part of it, because we are all part of making this world a better place through all of those layers of our efforts. And I just want to thank Rotary so much for the work that's done to continue to create these opportunities. Yes, at the individual student level, they are passionate, they are sharing, they are interested. At that family level, at that community level, at that school level, and around the world.
I want to thank you for sharing your passion and your energy with us this morning. What a great presentation. Hopefully those of you on this Zoom call learned something new today. I definitely did. I definitely can tell that you love what you do, and we appreciate for what you do. We appreciate your service to Rotary. If someone over the next minute or so has a question for you, please post that in the chat box. I'll be happy to ask that of you. We're getting some thumbs up there in the top there, so great job. Do really appreciate it. I did want to mention, we mentioned this last week, but I want to mention it again. You know, we were talking about Coastal Carolina earlier. You know, Coastal Carolina is also the home of, or the alma mater of, Dustin Johnson, who just won the Masters. He's the world #1 golfer. You know, Dustin has some roots here on the Grand Strand, so that's a really cool plug for Coastal too. It's being nationally ranked in football, nationally ranked in volleyball, got the Masters winning champion. A lot of positive things happening in the beautiful town of Conway, South Carolina. So let's see here. Thank you, Darla. What a passionate presentation. And yes, thank you, Michael. We did win the national championship in baseball a few years ago as well with Coach Gary Gilmore. You know, I got so excited about Dustin Johnson, I totally forgot about that. You got a way to hit it out of the park, Dr. Darla. So, excellent. Well, we do appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you.
We are streaming this live over right now on the Rotary District 7770 Facebook page. So we encourage you to go look at it there afterwards. Maybe share it on your pages, your club pages. We're also recording this conversation, and it will be posted on the district's YouTube channel later in the week. So as we close it down, first of all, I want to say, hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving on Thursday. We will not have a CWRAP program on Wednesday or Friday, so we're back a week from today. We want you to enjoy Thanksgiving, enjoy that stuffing and dressing as you voted it as the best Thanksgiving dish. Darla, I believe you have led the selection of global scholars at CCU for our area. And then thanks so much for the passion you have and that you share with your club and with others. Youth exchange is vital to our Rotary future. And then, so great comments. We do appreciate it, Darla.
Thank you all very much. And if there are ways that you think that we can reach out and partner, I would love for further dialogue along that. Thank you all. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Appreciate it very much. And once again, folks, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time away from CWRAP, but don't forget about us. We're back next Monday. And I do want to mention, I mentioned it almost on every call now, and will until that date passes, but December 18th, we want you all here, plus many, 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 many more. Well, for one, that's our last CWRAP of 2020, so we're going to go out in style, but it's also our ugly sweater Christmas contest and Christmas trivia. So it's the district's Christmas party on Zoom presented by CWRAP. How about that? December 18th at 11 o'clock. That happens to be a Friday. And yes, that is our last CWRAP of 2020. If you missed the Zone Summit over the weekend, I understand. I was on it Friday night. I couldn't be on it on Saturday, but I understand there was some great information. Go to summitofchampions.org. I believe I got that correct. If I messed that up, information I'm sure is going to be coming out, but summitofchampions.org, there are recordings you can watch from the summit. Now, the summit was all done virtually, and normally you have to, I believe, pay to go to this summit. I believe it's not done like it has been, so why not go and check that out if you have the time. And then I love this. So we're gonna encourage you on December 18th. I'm gonna end with this. The BYOEG. Now, what does that stand for? I love it. Lou Mello's back. We're glad to have him back, but that is bring your own eggnog. So I believe that would be BYOEN. Bring your own eggnog to the Christmas party on December 18th, 11 o'clock on Zoom. So hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving. We'll see you on Monday, November 30th for the next conversations with Rotary Action people. Take care. That's a wrap.